be very careful what you pray for. She said, because the same amount of people that God allows you to help is the same amount of people you can hurt. And that really stuck to me, going, if I don't deal with things and say I carry um, anger or bitterness or unforgiveness or offense, no matter how much I tried to hide it, you are going to hear it in a sermon or in something that I post or in just my demeanor. It is going to come through. It's going to come through in my books. It's going to come through in my ministry. So the greatest gift I can give to people is hopefully a pure heart, so the Holy Spirit can flow through me, and it's not being in any way, the toxicity of my own heart is not coming through. That's not easy. And the longer you walk with the Lord, it doesn't get easier. People need to realize this. The only thing that happens when your platform gets bigger is the target on your head gets bigger.
Right. Right.
So before, there was only a few people that could come at me. Now there's a whole lot more. That's the difference. And mostly, and I think certainly at this stage, it's not really the person that I don't know in the back of nowhere that's saying something. But truly, it's the people that are closest to you that are the ones that can betray you. It was like, the Pharisees didn't necessarily make Jesus lose any sleep, but Judas's betrayal really would have affected him. And that's the difference, is that unfortunately, even in our inner circle, and it's shocking to me, it's still shocking. I just think, wow, just a couple of years ago, I walked through and I said to my husband, I would have thought by this stage and age that this wouldn't happen. And it still hurts so viscerally. It still makes you think, is this worth it? Do I want to keep doing this? And then you will always have to come back round. Jesus is worthy. This is why I'm doing this. And Lord, you're going to have to create in me a clean heart, and you're going to have to renew a right spirit within me. And for someone that's younger listening to this, you're probably thinking, wow, I thought you grow out of that. You
Right.
don't, because we do have and of course, people are not our enemy. We have a real enemy.
We do.
And in fact, the more influence you get and the greater your reach, the greater the attacks of the enemy become. And I don't understand how people would not think that there really is an enemy. But this is a spiritual battle.
Yes,
and
it is.
whether you're in the marketplace, whether you're in tech or the corporate sector or academia or education or an entrepreneur, no matter what realm of life, if you're living your life on mission, if you're a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling your kids, if you live your life on mission, you are a target for the enemy, no matter who you are. And so the scripture says, don't be ignorant of the enemy's devices. And, especially at my age and stage, it's not likely, Kimberly, at this stage. I mean, of course, I'm human flesh, but I'm not likely to be tempted at this point to have an affair. I'm too old and I've gone through menopause and I'm just too tired. If I get a spare hour, I just want to go to sleep. And so that's like, but how the enemy could get to me is through bitterness, or unforgiveness, or do you know what I mean? It's more going to be, sometimes we think, because I'm not going to do the big ones, I'm not going to, commit adultery or steal the money or, do something huge, then we can neglect our heart. And the enemy is like, oh no, let me get in there and I will make you ineffective through what are more acceptable sins, like, whatever that might be, greed, lust, envy, guile, offense, bitterness, unforgiveness.
Especially in a society, and even in a Christian society, that those things are acceptable and even expected. Well, you should you should be bitter. You should be, right?
Yeah.
And we have to guard. So you have established a lifelong pattern of guarding what goes in. So let me ask you now, how do you, in the midst of a busy life and leading a large organization, how do you nurture relationships both with your family and then with friends? Sometimes in ministry and again, the more influence, the challenges are there with family as well as with friendships.
Yeah, very much so. So I think, well, for friendships are very high value for me. I think one way to take the pressure off is, it's not that I'm looking for one friend to be everything. And especially because I travel so much, I've made great relationships long-term with people from all over the world, which are very helpful, and I've got some friends that I'm like, these are my hiking buddies. We go hiking with this person. And then, I've got a core group of like 4 women at my age and stage that they would be my go-to, like in terms of if I know that I could pick up literally the phone 24/7 and I could go to them. But again, I'm not talking to them every day. We've all got very big lives, and but they are, we nurture that and are very intentional for whatever that might take, a few times a year, to make sure that we're together. But we don't put unrealistic pressure on ourselves either.
Yeah.
Like, we're not sorority girls in college. We've got
Right.
lives,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we see these things on TikTok or Instagram. We think, oh, they're all BFFs and they talk every day. And I think, do you have a life? So I think take that pressure off yourself, and see what you might need. And instead of demanding it all from one person, there are lots, even in my own area. I'm not home very often, but when I am, there's 4 or 5 couples that we have, because not everyone's available whenever I'm home. So rather than then think, oh, they don't like me, or, it's like you've got options in that sense. So I think that is a key thing. Don't demand from people what you should be getting from God. So number one, if your relationship with the Lord's strong, then I'm not expecting people to be God in my life. So if I need a very sort of one-on-one intimate conversation about something, well, I've got a couple of friends and that's who I'm going to go to for that. If I just want to kick back and, see a movie, then it doesn't have to be with that one person, because that person's likely to be in another country. And I've got
Right.
another group that I'm going to do that. But again, not expecting them to be what God can only be in my life. And that's the same with my marriage. Not expecting from Nick what I should be getting from Jesus. Now, once you get even that small thing settled, honestly, 80% of the stress comes off everything, because the Lord's the Lord in my life. And so people can be people. And that takes a lot of pressure off. And Nick and I, we've been married 29 years. So there's, we still love each other. Now we work together, we travel together. But, we also make sure Nick's got a group of guys that he does big bike races around the world with. And so we make sure that, there's a 5-day period. I go on a big hiking trip with my girlfriends. He goes on a bike trip with his guy friends. When we're in town, he's got a bike group that he rides with. So we both build, like, we don't expect each other just to be each other. That he's got great guy friends, I've got great girlfriends. But family for us from day one has, it's just a non-negotiable. So we do life together. Now, we've never been a child-centric home. We've always been a Jesus-centric home.
So
but
good.
Our kids have come on the journey with us. And what we've discovered, nothing's a problem for them if it's not a problem for us. So it's just, this is what we do. This is what our family does. And we make it fun. Fun is a core value. But there's never an issue about church or serving Jesus or ministry, because we're a Jesus-centered house. And that doesn't mean it's a boring house. It's not an intense house. I've got the most normal kids in the world, but here they are now at 23 and 19, and they would choose of their own volition. They want to come on vacation with us. They want to be around us. We have a family group chat. We're on it 10 times a day. It's just little things. And we're all in. My youngest daughter is in college in Paris, France. Nick and I are always traveling around the world. My eldest is at Pepperdine. So we're all in different parts of the globe, but we're constant. It's more an attitude of the heart. We're constantly there. And we invested when they were little, even with my very public and visible life. They always knew they were an incredible priority. It was never like a competition, the ministry versus the kids or the family. It was like, we do this together, and we made sure that they had fun along the way. And I think, and we never tried to pressure them to be who they're not.
Right.
For us, there was never any pressure that you have to have people have to think a certain way because you're my daughter.
Right.
Never. It was, God made you to be the woman of God He created you to be. He's put gifts and talents in you. My job as your mum is to help draw that gold out, to raise you up in the way that you should go, and to watch you flourish in whatever God's called you to do.
Yeah.
I've never put any pressure on them that, they need to be a certain stereotype. So if you met them, you'd love them. They're just full of joy. They're my most fun people, and they're getting older, so I'm still their mother until they get college and married, and then I'm going to be more their best friend, because I can tell we're already moving into that direction.
Oh, I think the key you mentioned is you're not child-centered. You're not marriage, maybe centric, but you are Jesus-centric.
Yeah.
And that's not for people that are in ministry. That's just as Christians. Our
Yes.
homes are Jesus-centric. And you do this journey together. And I love that. Christina, the things that you and Nick did in preparing these young ladies now in their college year in Paris, huh? Oh,
Yes. She's suffering for Jesus.
if you need somebody to go watch over her, bonjour, please send me. But there were some intentional things, and you've shared several of them in just the last couple minutes. But what is like the one thing you look back and you go, we're so glad as parents that we did this, because it really did prepare them now to be on their own in other places. What would be that one or two things?
From a young age, we really worked on nurturing their own relationship with the Lord. And I think that was, and again, not trying to put it in a box, because both my daughters are very different. But here's the example. And so, for parents, I want to just encourage you, look, none of us get it right all the time. We're all just doing our best, and God's grace can make up for a lot of our mistakes. I've discovered that, there's no perfect way. But I remember Soph called me from Paris, and she said, Mum, because in her school, it's an international school, only 10% of the students are from France, all the rest are from all over the world. And she said she's doing comparative writing and literature. And she said our literature professor said that he wanted us each to write a piece of literature based on a writer and a piece of literature from your country of origin, so that all the other students can get to know something about each of the different countries. So Sophia said to me, Mum, for 3 days I was trying to think. And so I emailed my professor and I said to him, Sir, this is a little bit of a problem for me, because I was born in Australia, but I wasn't raised in Australia, and so I don't really have an Australian literature that I could relate to. I was raised in America, but we traveled with our parents all the time, so I don't really feel that I'm American, like that's home. And I have a Greek passport because my mother's Greek, but I don't speak Greek, so I don't feel like Greece is home. So the only piece of literature that feels like home for me is the Christian Bible.
Wow.
It's the only piece of literature that's come with me for all of my life. So, because it's a secular school, she said, so can I write my paper on the literature of the Christian Bible, because that's the only place that feels like home.
Oh,